Hey guys, so tonight's lesson is how to eat to fast track success. So you saw the live video earlier in the day. We've got the hungry caterpillar analogy. Most people head into their week snacking and nibbling on healthy foods. They try and do the chicken salad thing. They try and do some kind of variation of that. And essentially, they will go week to day to day throughout the week, eating a small amount of food only to get to the weekend and binge on all of their favorite foods. Now, imagine if you could flip that on its head. You could still enjoy your favorite foods throughout the week, but more moderately and consistently. Chances are, if you can do something like that, you'll be able to measure it and you'll be able to make small changes to that in the direction you'd like to go. So that's what tonight's lesson is all about, eating to fast track success, because there's not a lot of thought that goes into the way we eat. It's habit. And when it's habit, it's deep in the brain, and the brain doesn't know whether or not that's good or bad for us. It just plays out that habit loop that's been stored. So if you're used to having pancakes on a Saturday because you've got some time to sleep in, and that's what mum and dad used to cook on Saturdays, then you'll probably still be in that habit. If you're used to breakfast cereals in the morning because you're in a mad rush to get to work and you sleep in past your alarm clock, then chances are breakfast cereals are a habit of yours. And there are a myriad of habits, or like 100 different habits, 1,000 different habits, and they're not these little creatures that run around in our heads. They are actually good for us, but when they're stored and we don't know whether they're good or bad, then that's where we have some trouble. So later on in this series, I'm going to talk about how you can break and create habits. But for now, let's talk about the food. So tonight's lesson is going to take you through what the healthiest people in the world really eat, because there's clues in success, and that's the theme, or the idea we're heading down. If we start to look at the clues, start to look at the people who have done really well in this program, we can see some clues and some really simple rules. If you remember back to week one of the things that I mentioned on how to identify a good habit, a good diet, is that it doesn't have too much overwhelming information too soon. So obviously Metabolic Precision has a lot of information in it, and at the end of the day, Metabolic Precision is just another program. The difference lies in the coaching and the small drip feed of information over time. Because the thing with a coach is, what we can do is we can look at what you're actually doing rather than what you should be doing. So instead of there being this really big gap between you and what your ideal is, or what the program's ideal is, a coach will close the gap, force you to look backwards, so force you to actually look at what you're doing rather than what you should be doing. And when you start focusing on what you are doing, then you can start to make changes, and like I said, small changes, which you'll be able to stop changing at any point. So instead of going and overhauling your whole diet, you can make small changes, see what effect they have on your body, and then when you're at a position where you enjoy your lifestyle still, there's no rebounds, and you're at the body shape you like, then you can say, all right, well, this is where I'm going to sit and maintain. And finally, we're going to touch on the metabolic window, and that's the how to make food work for you part. That's the eat to fast track success. It's very exciting stuff. So the first thing you need to know about food is it's essentially ones and zeros. So it programs your computer, or it programs your metabolism to do either one of two things: burn fat or build muscle. Now, as we age, we lose the muscle bit and we put on a bit extra fat. So what we want to do is we want to try and slow the process and maybe go in the other direction if possible. So how do you construct a metabolically precise meal? Well, it's quite easy, very simple. You need three things. You need protein. So for those of you who have the manual, you'll be able to look at chart 2 in your manuals. You need the right carbohydrates, and that chart 3 goes through 2 different types of carbohydrates, which we'll touch on later, and good fats. And I'll tell you exactly what a good fat is, because there's a lot of misinformation out there at the moment with what constitutes a good fat. All right, so the metabolic window. This is essentially an opportunity for you to channel all of the nutrition you consume within that window to the right place. How do we open up a window? We use exercise to open up that window. So the first thing about the window that you should know is that it's an opportunity. It's not a free get out of jail free card. Doesn't mean you can go and eat crap in that window and get away with it. You need to understand exactly what it is, and what it is an opportunity for you to channel the right nutrition to the right place. The next thing you need to know is where your metabolic window is. So your metabolic window sits about 15 minutes before a workout, and it goes for around 2.5 to 2:45 after a workout, depending on how long your workout is. But essentially the whole window lasts for around 3 hours. Now, it's not a perfect science. It doesn't mean you need to jump over couches and bash through doors to get your meal in 3 hours after your workout. No, what it means is that you can eat thereabouts within that time, and you can have high energy carbohydrates, and those high energy carbohydrates will be channeled to the right places. So that's the last part, and that's knowing what to eat at the right time. Cool. So we're getting through this quite quickly. What do the healthiest people in the world eat? Well, we're going to go through the checklist, the 3 rules that we talked about earlier, what constitutes a metabolic precise meal. And we're going to compare that against what the healthiest people in the world eat. Now, the healthiest people in the world, they live in places called blue zones. And these are places where people regularly, routinely live up well into their hundreds. They have a lot of purpose in life, and you'll often see them working out, chopping wood, walking to the letterbox, even running to the letterbox, well into their 80s. These are places in the world where literally any kind of lifestyle disease that we have here is non-existent. So let's take a look at our backyard. Now, Australians, we're gold medalists. We're gold medalists in lifestyle diseases. We rank pretty much top number 1, sometimes 2 or 3 if the UK or US overtakes us, but we're tight for that top spot as one of the highest incidences for the big 4, which is your obesity, heart disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. So let's compare our typical Australian meals to some of the other meals that we see in blue zones. The first blue zone we'll look at is Iceland. So in Iceland, despite the dark, long winters, there's a low incidence of depression and a low incidences of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and some cancers. And their traditional breakfast is what they call thoramatur. Now, this is in the native villages, obviously, where it's a bit more urbanized. People have adopted the Western way, the breakfast cereals in the morning, yada, yada, yada. But if we look at typical traditional cultures, and we're looking at Iceland, this is their typical breakfast or lunch. And just going off what you see there, pickled salmon, vegetables, and black coffee, let's do the tick checklist in our heads. So pickled salmon. Who wants to have a go? What does pickled salmon constitute? It's actually a tricky one because it gives you 2 ticks. The first tick it'll give you is a first-class protein. So how do we define a first-class protein? A first-class protein is a protein that has all of its essential amino acids, typically coming from animals, despite the case of soy, where you'll get a complete protein from soy. And the other thing that it needs to have is less than 10 grams of fat per 100 grams. So that's how we constitute a first-class protein. An animal protein or soy, something with all of the essential amino acids. These are the building blocks for the body. These are the things that our body can't actually make. And less than 10 grams of fat per serve. So we've got first class protein there. Now, salmon's actually high in what we call omega-3. Omega-3 is one of the three omegas. There's 3, 6, and 9. But 3 is of particular interest to us because we're quite low as a population in omega-3. We do need more omega-3, and the benefits of omega-3 is it actually upregulates the metabolism, okay, and it also stops the degeneration of the cells, okay. So when there's an imbalance of omega-3 and omega-6, things start to basically not work properly in the body, and you get a lot of inflammation. That inflammation, it stops fat burning, it stops a host of other things that are basically important for the metabolism. So by increasing the omega-3 in our diets, we start to see an upregulation of the metabolism, better fat burning, and better processes all around. If you think of your cells as little balloons, the omega-3 bolsters those cells and makes them live a little bit longer. All right, so a little less science and a little more practical theory. As you can see here, this meal has first-class protein, tick in the salmon. We've got good source of fats, salmon. And we've also got low energy carbohydrate choices in the vegetables. The black coffee is what we call a theon. Okay, so it's a metabolically precise drink. And that there is a metabolically precise meal. What is a metabolically precise meal? It's nothing to do with the brand MP. It's got nothing to do with that. What a metabolically precise meal is the meal that burns fat and builds muscle. That's all it is. And these guys have nailed it, and they have no idea what metabolic precision is. In fact, they probably don't even need it over there yet. So the MP rating, if we compare that against the program, this is an excellent type of meal. Doesn't mean you need to go and eat salmon for breakfast, but like you'll see soon, taking these clues, we can change things around to really tantalize our taste buds and still eat very healthily. Okinawa, I won't spend too much time here. This is another blue zone just off Japan, and they typically eat for breakfast and lunch tofu, seaweed, fish, eggs, vegetables. A lot of first-class protein in there, a lot of low-energy carbohydrate choices, and sources of good fats. Okay, that's another excellent place. And then let's compare that against a typical Australian breakfast. A bowl of processed cereal, 2 slices of toasted jam, glass of orange juice, coffee, milk, sugar. If you've grown up in my era, if you grew up in the 90s, in the 80s, and even the 70s, chances are you probably grew up on some kind of cereal like this. And when we talk about what you've eaten for, the last 12 months, 12 years, that's where it starts to count. It's what you've consistently eaten for that period of time that'll have the most effect on your body shape. What you eat for the next 12 weeks isn't going to have much of an impact. It's going to be a start, but it takes 6 months for your cells in the body to fully turn over. So you need to eat consistently well for at least 6 months before you start to see major differences in your body. And just because it takes a while doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, because the time will pass anyway. Let's compare this against the MP rating. It's low in first-class protein. No first-class protein in the typical Australian breakfast. Poor carbohydrate choices. So most people don't exercise early in the morning. They're on the run to work and they're having a bowl of cereal or something similar, a McWrap from Macca's, Egg McMuffin, something like that. So poor carbohydrate choices. It's high energy, without the window, no exercise. You're going to sit on your bum all day. No source of omega-3, and maybe a metabolically precise drink. Maybe if you've added sugar, then obviously it's going to counteract any health benefits. But this is why we have high incidences of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, yada, yada, yada. Back to another blue zone. We've got Crete in Greece. And look at that. They love their red wine. They're very relatively healthy population. Again, go to the urban areas and you'll probably see similar stuff you see in Australia. But we're talking about the villagers, the people who still live the traditional way. They're still eating lots of soup, legumes, tomatoes, roasts, stews, free-range meats, all that sort of stuff. So what's an MP alternative? Firstly, the MP omelette. Now, you've probably tried this already. I'm going to challenge you to do it in 3 minutes, though. It can be done. It's a good challenge. So if you are watching this now and you want to challenge yourself, go ahead, challenge yourself to a 3-minute omelette. If you do it, post it, and we can celebrate you, because being able to make quick, fast, delicious food is very important, especially when you're strapped for time. Think about it. 3 minutes is probably what it's going to take to pour a bowl of cereal, make your coffee, and get in the car. So if you can do that in 3 minutes, then you're cheering. A quick tip to do it in 3 minutes: you need a really hot pan, and you need your vegetables to be pre-chopped. Obviously, if you're standing there chopping your vegetables, it's going to take 20 minutes rather than 3 minutes. So you want it pre-chopped, and that's where the shop and chop comes in. But this meal here, high in first-class protein, low energy carbohydrate choices, and you've got your omega-3, at least five theons, depending on how many theons you can pack into that omelette. Lunch, 10-minute apple and orange chicken salad. Your flaxseed oil that you pour on the salad, and a vanilla tea, excellent on the MP rating. And this is compared to blue zones, places where there are people with exceptional health, exceptional bodies. Dinner, tuna cakes, 5 minutes, whip them up. Again, this all comes back to being prepared. Chop and chop. Don't let your vegetables rot at the bottom of the fridge. Chop them up, put them in Tupperware containers, and you'll use them throughout the week. Mid-morning, afternoon snack, we've got delicious treats that taste like desserts rather than a health food. Blueberry cream, chocolate MPLM. Again, we get 3 ticks there. Look at that for dessert. It'll replace any bowl of ice cream. Guaranteed. Delicious. Perfect for after work when you're sitting watching TV. So let's take a look at a quickly daily plan. You just notice there that this is no exercise, so no window. There's no high energy carbs there on that list. Now don't get too wrapped up in the timings. So it doesn't really matter if you eat at 6:30, then you eat again at 9, then you don't eat until 3, and then maybe you eat something at 4:30, 7 o'clock for dinner, 8 o'clock for before bed. Or, you know what? Maybe you don't even eat 6 meals a day, because most of the time when you're starting a program like this, you're probably only used to eating once or twice a day. 3 if you're lucky. If you go from eating once or twice a day, 3 if you're lucky, to 6 meals a day, you've just in that one swoop doubled your calories. It doesn't matter how healthy you're eating. If you've just doubled your calories, you will put on weight. So look at this as an ideal, not as reality. Reality will be something a little bit less than this. If you're only eating twice a day at the moment, then getting those 2 meals, metabolically precise, will be your first port of call. And doing that might help you lose 1 or 2 kilos or tone up a little bit. You don't have weight to lose. Once you've done that, then you can add a meal and see what it does to your body. And that's that's where the coaching comes into things, because as coaches, we've got years of experience and we know what changes affect bodies the right way, and we will get you there a lot faster than you will on your own. So, some action steps for today. I want you to try and construct your own metabolically precise meal. One for inside and another for the outside the window. Send them through email, or you can even post them in the Facebook group. That's probably better because you'll get a lot more interaction from people in the Facebook group. Construct your own metabolically precise meal and ask for some feedback. That's your action step for today. I hope you enjoyed the talk. It was a very quick one, but a good one. It's probably got your cogs turning, got you a little bit motivated to eat healthier. Just remember that it's all a process. It's not about going from one extreme to another. So take it slow, and like I said earlier, get a coach if you don't have a coach yet. Me and Megan are coaches. We specialize in working long term with you to achieve your permanent success, rather than treating it like another diet. So if this is your first program, then yeah, make sure you read all the information, let it all sink in, and then you get some accountability. All right, thanks guys.